in order to be a great leader and truly build phenomenal teams, you also have to be realistic about people's weaknesses, again, which we all have. I think that if a really great leader is going to be able to inspire their people to take part in the team and produce in a way that even takes them layers up, right? Where they're producing at one level, and then a great leader can help them to produce 2 or 3 levels higher. Now, most people work well under encouragement. So a truly great leader is an encouraging visionary. They can communicate their overall vision in a way that gets their team members excited and happy to come to work and contribute again at higher levels than maybe they're even used to. But they also they have a clarity and vision that the people can lean on and can turn to in the days where it's hard, because it is going to be hard some days.
Have you ever put much thought into the very clothes that you are wearing and the harm they may be doing to you and the environment? Doesn't sound like a very leadership-related topic, does it? But recently on the podcast, we have been exploring some of these crossovers between health questions and the workplace and the health and safety of our people at work, frankly. So it's a little bit relevant. It becomes more so when we add this week's guest, who has co-founded a sustainable fashion tech company. So there's some leadership and business lessons in there too. So that guest is Lacey Cadieux-McLean. She is here to talk about all of her leadership experience, from a 15-year career in project management to the lessons that she has learned since starting her own business in fashion tech. And of course, we will be talking about that business, what it does, why it does it. And there's a very meaningful why behind it as well. Off the beaten path a little for the podcast, but we do bring it back to leadership, as I always do. It's one of my skills in life, is being able to make everything about leadership one way or the other, whether people like it or not sometimes. But if you're here, hopefully that's because you like hearing this kind of conversation. So we will, of course, hear all about Lacey's company, which is called Rubaya, the technology that it is bringing to bear to help with sustainable fashion in terms of what those clothes are made of, as well as how renewable they are, how reusable, their longevity, and getting the most from your wardrobe. I never thought I'd be talking about this. However, it is quite an interesting story. And as I say, there is a very meaningful purpose behind the business. Lacey's clearly very passionate about it as well, as you will very soon discover. We also hear her take on leadership, both from her career before the business and what she's learned from the founder's journey as well. As always, do check those show notes or stick around to the end for more information. Visit Lacey's website, learn more about the business that she will be talking about today. And if you are a new leader, if you've been pushed in at the deep end, if you are perhaps a first-time founder as well, or instead, and you're going through some of the challenges, the steep learning curves that Lacey alludes to today, then do come and join us at Integrity Leaders, the online leadership community for first-time leaders, first-time managers, first-time founders, people working in tech or specialist environments who are feeling a bit like that proverbial fish out of water and just don't know where to start. Community is there for you. It offers resources, knowledge, proven frameworks, and of course, a community of other leaders going through the same or similar experiences as you, so you can start building up that supportive network. The website to learn more is leadingwithintegrity.co.uk. That's also in the show notes, and if you're watching the video, it's on the screen, probably covering part of my head by now, so you can find that quite easily, I hope. Okay, so let's get Lacey on the show and hear more about her leadership experiences.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Lacey, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Leading with Integrity.
Thank you, David. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. And to kick us off, over to you. Tell us a bit about your career story so far, what you do today, why you do it, and all of those lovely things.
I have not taken a straight path in any way, shape, or form. My career journey so far has been a series of mountains and valleys and side quests, is the way that I would put it. Uh, I have a business degree in Bachelor of Management, specializing in business economics, which was a wonderful way to position me to get some early internships and jobs that ended up eventually, actually quite quickly, leading me into information technology. Within I think I graduated in 2005, and by the end of 2005, and definitely into 2006, I was starting to lead small projects as a junior project manager. And that really started a journey that's lasted many years of me getting into the IT project management space. I took 4 years off when I had my kids, and I ended up writing books during that time. I found out I'm terrible at sitting still, and I ended up writing 2 novels, one which ended up getting published, and then I returned back to work and was full steam ahead in the project management space, and I've been doing it consistently now for about 16 years. And also during that time, I decided that I wanted to get into fitness competitions. So the better part of my 30s was also in my very little a bit of spare time was also doing that. And then going into my latter part of my 30s and into my early 40s, I decided I also wanted, because life wasn't busy enough, to start my own companies. And so with my husband, we started a short-term rental property management company, which we still operate. And then I've also started Rubaya, which is I'm probably my passion project, which is in the fashion tech space. So I really wanted to make a difference in ensuring that business professional women have sustainable clothing choices available to them. Because I went out looking for those clothing options and couldn't find anything that I thought really fit what professional ladies are looking for in the remote and in-person office environment. And so when I couldn't find it, I started kind of thinking, oh, well, somebody needs to ensure that there's more options out there in the sustainable space. Why not me? And then working in technology for so many years, as soon as I start working on anything, I immediately start looking at the processes associated with the full life cycle of the thing that I'm working on. And so I really started examining clothing, our choices around clothing, what happens after we purchase our clothes, either in store or delivered to our front door. How do I close that loop? Because once the clothing ends up in our closets, it's a very manual experience that we have with them. It's very traditional still. There's not much technology that's really interfacing with us to help make the clothing selection and also clothing organization in our closets make it easier. So it can be quite a stressful experience for people still, because you're standing there, you're kind of scratching your head. You need advice, like say you have a special event, like a special birthday. You're not quite sure what to wear. Maybe it's hard to collaborate with people, or you'd even love to have an AI to talk to give you outfit combinations. So thinking in that sense about closing the loop and introducing technology to the rest of the process, including that manual process in the closet, was where we ended up coming up with our AI-driven virtual closet concept. So we kind of have 2 streams that are being introduced via the Rubaya brand. We've got our women's professional sustainable clothing brand, which is all organic, natural materials. And then it actually integrates with the virtual AI-driven virtual app. We're pioneering the clothing space, where we just have started to introduce as well the concept of not just the physical clothes, but also virtual clothes. And that's partially inspired by gaming, the gaming industry, and virtual skins that you can purchase. Say online on some of the games, you can buy skins for your character. So we said, okay, well, since this seems to be a hit, how come when we go to purchase our clothes, we only can purchase a physical version of that item of clothing? How come we can't purchase a virtual version that integrates with an application and automatically uploads so that we can try it on and all that sort of thing onto, say, again, inspired by gaming, a virtual avatar that looks just like us. And so you can kind of see how, or as somebody who's in the technology space, immediately takes it from, oh, I'm going to do a sustainable clothing brand, to look at all this process and technology and ways that we can make this, all improve the process. And then here we are today with Rubaya. And it's just the beginning of the journey. We still have grand ideas that are coming up all the time. We've got a growing backlog of improvements, and we're really excited about it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, forgive the pun, but there's a lot of threads to pull on there.
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah. So, I mean, it strikes me as well whenever I talk to like a quite successful entrepreneur, but it's a similar story in terms of how many different spinning plates there are and how many pies they have fingers in, or whatever analogy you prefer.
Yeah.
So fashion, speaking is about as far as possible to get from being a fashion guru, me. What was something about that industry that surprised you when you started doing your research and started to set up the company and work within fashion?
It was how traditional it is, how much technology hasn't, it's sort of at the very beginnings of technology kind of making its way in. There is other virtual wardrobe management apps out there. There's virtual try-on technology is starting to be a thing, and they're integrating it into the in-store experience, but it feels like it's at its infancy. And the interesting thing is that in order for fashion to kind of continue to evolve and stay current, it does need to meld with technology. And so that was really what I was finding. And the sustainability and technology together actually helps improve the way that we interact with our clothes, but also how they return to the earth, and also their longevity. So right now there's a massive textile waste problem in the world. I think it's 92 million tons of textile waste annually is something the world is experiencing. And if we can even help people to make clothing choices that are organic, and when they're done with those clothes, they naturally, if they end up in the landfills in a wastewater environment, they're going to break down and return to the earth. So right now, most clothing that's produced is synthetic. And so consumers are either they don't understand or don't know what happens, how big the textile waste problem is in the world and how it's contributing to pollution. There's various different factors, but the clothing industry is at its infancy, not just with technology, but also with understanding how over the 20th century, how our consumption of clothing changed when we introduced synthetic fabrics like polyesters. And so they're starting to understand their impact a little bit more in the world. And they're starting to make, say, look, we need to make changes. We need to use more natural materials. And the consumer is starting to learn a little bit more about, again, the larger global impact of synthetic clothing waste. And they're naturally changing the industry as well, because they're starting to say, no, we want to have sustainable choices. We'll pay for those sustainable choices. And therefore the company a lot of the global brands are starting to think about sustainability as the future, which is wonderful news. But without the technology, we'll continue to have that very traditional experience in the closet, and people will continue to lose track of their clothes. So most people wear their clothes on average 7 to 10 times before they're discarded or they find the dusty recesses of the closet. Now, we all have our favorite items that we wear over and over again. So this is just, again, on average, but that's really not that many times before it eventually ends up in a landfill and or incinerated, which again, there's burn off and toxicity associated with that. So with technology, we're going to actually be able to make a difference in that and helping people shop their closets and wear their clothes longer and come up with part of the reason people forget about their clothes is they need help coming up with outfit combinations, right? It's like, I don't know why we do this. I think we're all a little bit guilty of it, but how many of us have that t-shirt that we happen to have almost the exact same t-shirt in, say, the black t-shirt in, we've got 5 of almost the same black t-shirt, but we keep buying more black t-shirts. We're not really sure what, because we forgot we owned the other black t-shirt. We're not, like, why we do that, I'm not sure, but these virtual wardrobe management apps, they're going to be able to help people maybe give those black, because now we're talking about multiple, those black t-shirts a bit more of a longer lifespan because they'll continue to come up through the combinations that the app suggests. So.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about like what makes it sustainable, because I think for a lot of people they hear sustainable and fashion in the same sentence, and they just assume like pre-loved, secondhand, whatever the phrase is, you donate your clothes, right? But you kind of already answered this question. You've explained so many of the other aspects of it, and I really like that. Now, I can't identify with someone who only wears an item of clothing 6 or 7 times before it gets thrown out. Like for me, if it fits and is comfortable, I'm going to wear it over and over until there's so many holes in it that I'm not allowed to wear it anymore.
You are one of the kind ones to the environment and having that longevity of use.
It's more laziness and a kind of hate of buying clothes than anything else. But yeah, that's definitely my own bias, I think. But
yeah.
But yeah, you probably did notice my eyebrows going up when you said that. But I think the other aspect of the sustainability, of course, which you've already spoken to, that we probably don't think of, is this the simple fact of what the clothes are made of, and whether they've got holes in them or they've only been worn 6 times. When they do get thrown out, what then happens to them? How long before? What's their half-life? I guess is the question, isn't it?
Well, and what happens to them is really the thought that Rubaya and the team has spent a lot of time contemplating. So if your article of clothing is polyester, which a great deal of our clothes are, if we're buying in the synthetic space, it takes up to 200 years for it to break down in the landfill. So your clothing will outlive you. And when it does break down, it's not going to break down like organic cotton item of clothes will. It will break down into small microplastics. So little pieces of mush, essentially. It breaks down into a plasticky mush. And then eventually the plasticky mush breaks down into smaller pieces of plasticky mush and ends up in our waterways, it gets back into the life cycle of life. And then it can end up being consumed. For example, if it gets into a waterway and then it's eaten by a fish, and then we eat the fish, it's making its way back into your body. And there's more and more studies coming out right now about the impact of buildup of microplastics in our body. And those microplastics don't just come in from clothing in landfills. They also come in from clothing shedding, and something we don't think about because anything small that we can't see that's going on, we generally don't put a lot of thought into. But as we wear synthetic clothing, it does shed because the little fibers that make up the weaving of the clothes, you actually can rub against things, and over time they wear off, and then you breathe those in. And so they're getting into your body and building up all over. They're finding microplastics all over, right, inside of us. And there's more and more growing concern about the long-term impacts of that and how it's impacting our overall health.
Yes, I've read a few of those studies myself, not focused on fashion, but just general plastics and waste. And then there's like that giant island, isn't there, floating around in one of the oceans? I forget which one. That's just all the plastic that's been dumped in the ocean. It just kind of gravitates together and forms this mass, doesn't it? It's
Some people don't realize
scary stuff.
great deal of their clothing is plastic. That's a combination, even a blend. It's something that, because it doesn't look like, quote, plastic, once they've weaved it into a small into a garment, they often don't spend a lot of time. They'll look at the plastic water bottle and be like, yeah, this probably isn't the best. I should probably drink out of a more sustainable water bottle. This is probably seeping toxins into the water and ultimately getting up into me. Well, it's the same thing with our clothes, but we just, for whatever reason, in general, people haven't started making that correlation that my clothes are also doing the same thing. And on top of that, that plastic water bottle is sitting over there on your table, on your desk, on your counter at home. It's not against your skin. Your clothes are against your skin, and they're there all day long, every day. And so one of the things that we've ended up really looking into is harmful chemicals in textiles, and dyes, water resistance, stain resistant coatings, all of these things that are meant to bring ease, right? Because we love it when our clothes don't wrinkle. It makes life easier when we don't have to get the iron and the ironing board out. But what we don't think about is that that's actually a chemical that's been treating those clothes, and you're putting that now onto your skin, and it's actually the skin is incredibly absorbent, and so it's absorbing into you, and you're doing that all day long, every day, with a lot of our clothing choices. Rubai is trying to make the difference. Our clothes are cottons, bamboos. We're even getting into banana fabrics. There's a eucalyptus leaf, cork, all of these wonderful materials that are readily available in the world, and that, again, return to the world if we're done with them. So we're trying to give the consumer some different options.
I guess the other appeal for working with a lot of those materials, it's more traditional in the good way in terms of production and methods behind them, and not like the assembly line, the factory, the thing chucking out more smog into the atmosphere on top of everything else.
Absolutely. And I don't know why like where people kind of like where we forgot, I guess, and it really is like when I say this, it's me. I always go back to feeling like what I knew even a few years ago. I wasn't informed on the sustainable space. My husband really ended up helping me to learn more about it. He's a career firefighter, and he's exposed to a lot of toxins through his job, and their gear that they wear, they don't replace it all the time. They clean it after a major event or fire. There's still toxins that build up on it. They're exposed to a lot. And he was the one that kind of said, workplace cancers are a thing for firefighters. I already have a much higher chance of developing cancer in my life because of my job. I want, when I'm outside of work, I want to make choices that are more healthy and more healthy for my skin. And so he was the one that started teaching me about all of this and his journey that he was on. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'd never thought about that before, and kind of went on this journey with him. But did I worry about synthetic clothes for the better part of my life? Nope, didn't even think about it. Did I understand what was ending up in landfills? Nope, and didn't want to know. I was really focused on ease and also affordability. Fast fashion, which is largely synthetic fashion, is more affordable. So, we kind of think, oh, I don't want to worry about all that other stuff. I can only do what I can do, and this is what I can afford. And it's quickly accessible and available to me. So it's a journey that we're all on, and I've been on the other side of the equation as somebody who truly was very much at the beginning of it, and had to take the time to learn all these things.
Yeah, it's an important message. And I mean, there's parallels to so many things we've learned as a society, aren't there, over the last sort of, well, forever, I suppose. But I mean, the other one that jumps out to me was smoking. And then more recently, I saw a study, or a headline maybe, just the other day about vaping, which a lot of people turn to as a safer form of smoking. Well, now it looks like maybe that's going to cause lung cancer and mouth cancer anyway. So it's always, there's always something else that we've not thought of, isn't there? And I think being aware of these things and the potential impacts and what they're actually made of and what their impact and their effects might be on our own health as well. Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Natural materials, sustainable materials were what most of the world used for the better part of a history, right? Synthetic clothes are very new when we're looking at history as a whole. And that's something that we need to keep in mind, that for the better part of our world, and for when people were wearing clothes, of course. And I think that the way that we kind of did a little bit of research on this, right? The weave changed things. So once we were invented the weave, the way that we produce clothing evolved quite quickly after that. And then what were we wearing before that? Well, there was hide, was a big thing, and natural though. And when you're done with it, it returns to the earth. Leaves also, that ended up being a source. Grasses and linens ended up being a source of what we ended up using to make clothes. So you kind of think about it and you realize nature was the clothes in the various different forms, and over time it evolved. But the idea of these factory produced toxic clothing items that we've gotten sold into wearing, and again, a lot of it's about affordability. It's actually new. It's not kind of the way things have, quote, always been. And what we're seeing happen in the sustainable space is a return to our roots, which was using earth and things that came from the earth in order to produce our clothing in a natural way that's healthy.
There's probably a lesson there as well about consumerism and the profit motive and etc. I mean, there's another parallel that's just popped into my brain, which is probably blindingly obvious, but it's only just occurred to me as you were talking just then. But it's like the move away from processed foods and towards more organic sources of food and that sort of thing, which that one feels like an easier thing to get to grips with, because you're literally like you're consuming it, so of course it's going to end up in your body, right? But yeah, it really is scary. Like now I'm trying to think of what else haven't we thought about yet that might be killing us all.
Well, cancers are it's wild. It's becoming such a big problem, and we're exposed to toxins all throughout our day. And actually, there's no getting away from it. Even if you choose to live a sustainable life, it seems like you're either through processed foods or whatever it might be, we're just exposed continuously to chemicals. And how we got to this place is probably a conversation just in itself. But we do need to think about how we can reverse it to some degree. Because we're just doing terrible things to our bodies, to our children's bodies, by continuing to expose ourselves to these materials. And the thing is, when you brought up food, and I think it's becoming more known that there's pesticides and chemicals and all kinds of things that are ending up on our food. But when you buy an article of clothing, nobody's telling you that it's coated in this chemical and say formaldehyde, which is a carcinogen, all that there's aspects of it. They don't include it, what chemicals are used on the label. that's a bit odd, if you really think about it. Why wouldn't they just have to disclose as a standard that, are you aware that there's forever chemicals on these clothes, and these forever chemicals can be consumed into your body and end up there? Why we don't say that straight out to the consumer? It feels a bit lacking in transparency.
No, I agree. And even setting aside the fact that by wearing it, you're going to be absorbing it. What if like a child gets one of these clothing items and starts chewing on it? Like,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big risk as well, isn't it? So you would have thought for that reason alone, this sort of thing should, I don't know. But then there's even things like a lot of people apparently, I again can't relate to this, when they buy new clothes or an item of, say, fresh food, they don't wash it before they use it or eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's got like preservatives on it or something's been spilled on it while it was on the shelf or whatever, then you're getting that too. I don't get that.
People can sneeze on it
Yeah.
and cough on it and all of that other thing.
Especially in post-COVID world, right? Like people should be more aware of this sort of thing. That's just weird to me.
Yeah. We have a lot of opportunity to help the consumer learn these things, and also improve disclosure across the board. Now, why don't we encourage disclosure? Well, there's a benefit from a corporate perspective, right? For people that are producing these synthetic clothes on the cheap en masse, it does not benefit that those that are involved to be promoting more transparency, to be promoting sustainability. It does cost more to produce sustainable clothes because they have to go through extensive audits and certifications, and those processes to get the fabrics certified, either through GOTS certified, which is like organic cotton, and also they look into the production to make sure it's ethical, all of that sort of thing. To get a certification, there's a cost associated with that ends up being going into the overall cost of the fabrics. As well, there's Ocotex, which is a certification that is about the toxicity of the clothing produced. To get that certification, you have to be able to reassure that there's no heavy toxins that are on the clothes. And so all of this costs money. And so as a result, producing clothing, even in overseas or in the countries where it's a bit more affordable to produce clothing, it's still quite a notable difference in production costs to produce a sustainable item versus a non-sustainable item. And so a lot of companies are producing en masse all these beautiful clothes, but utilizing these synthetics and not being held accountable for the chemicals that are being used in the process, because the consumer has an appetite for it, which is interesting. We have an appetite to be poisoned because it's cheap and it's accessible, and maybe it looks good, and we don't want to have to worry about wrinkles in our clothes. So we're happy to spend a few dollars, again, especially if it's cheaper, to buy a wrinkle-free shirt that is coated and drenched in chemicals. So I think that in general, disclosure and transparency would really change the industry, because people would kind of put a little bit more thought. But it doesn't benefit everyone in the industry to have disclosure and transparency. So they will definitely not be quick to do that unless governments intervene and create some rules, I guess, to better protect the consumer.
Yes. Yeah, which I don't know. I can't see that happening anytime soon in this part of the world. I don't know about your part of the world, but yeah, I mean, I suppose the cost point is similar in a lot of things. I mean, the same is true with like organically certified foods, like carbon credits in theory. Pick any sort of sustainable certification and the same will probably be true. Some of them less reputable than others, I would add. They are quite easy to game, some of those systems, unfortunately. It's the point about cost, I think. It's cost and convenience is how we've ended up in this position, isn't it? And maybe not predatory, but certainly not 100% ethical business practices, let's say, that are playing to that.
They're driven by its profit. And I mean, that's also the food industry, same thing too. Those chemicals that are being used are helping the farmers to be able to produce more food to feed the world. But in turn, there's a trade-off, right?
Yeah. I think with farming, it's getting to the point where it's gone too far. I mean, there's this issue with the soil being damaged, and so you won't be able to grow the food at all potentially in a few decades, if not sooner. And yeah, it's short-termism, I think. That's, if we were to sum up this whole problem of all of these industries in a single phrase, I think that would be the one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I grew up on a ranch environment, and I grew up around farming, and it's very close to my heart. Now, my dad didn't use chemicals; it was more organic farming, and you're not going to get the yield that you need in order to provide for your family. And I think that there's several layers to it. Anytime that we look at it for a family farming operation, a lot of them feel like they need to use these chemicals. They need to do all these extras to get more production in order to stay competitive, especially the family farming operations, which are struggling across the board comparative to the corporate farming operations. And while they do care, I truly believe that they do care about these things for their own health as well as their family's health. They still are a business, and they're trying to stay relevant. So we kind of have to figure out how to help them out in that journey.
Definitely. There are, however, technologies to help with that sort of thing. Now, we can talk about that after the episode if you like. Awesome. So I think we've answered all of the questions I had about the industry and the work that you do. So let's talk a bit more about your experience of leadership. So there's one particular moment in most people's careers that has long fascinated me ever since I had to do it and did a really bad job of it. And that's that shift from individual contributor to leader manager. So that moment where you go from doing the work to being responsible for the work. So when you went through that with the background, the experience, the industries that you've worked in, what were some of the things that took you by surprise the first time you found yourself in that leadership role?
When you're a leader, your impact is measured through the growth and performance of your team. When you're an individual contributor, your success is measured by your own output. And so that's really the key. It becomes all about the team. As an entrepreneur, there's only so much I could do by myself. I could never scale my company. I could never grow my company without the inputs of the team that's working behind it. And so, it really does become about building up your team, but also ensuring that there's a level of transparency, clarity, and communication with them, and making sure that as a leader that I'm focusing on their growth and their performance and supporting them versus being too particularly worried about my own output that's contributing. So that's definitely the biggest learning.
I think this kind of moment of transition, I suppose. So my pet theory is this is the reason why there are so many micromanagers in the world, is because they don't make that adjustment effectively enough or in the right way. And from personal experience, I definitely did that. Like the first year as a manager, there are probably people who I was managing at the time who cursed my name to this day as a result of that. But yeah, so what do you think about that? Like, there's that other age-old question as well about why there's so many bad managers. And again, I think that this is the answer to that question too. But feel free to disagree with me.
You have to read the team. So being in project management, which we both have experience in, I think we know that on every team there's going to be people with strengths and weaknesses, and the best leaders can identify what are their people's strengths and put them in a position where they're able to build upon that strength. And also, in order to be a great leader and truly build phenomenal teams, you also have to be realistic about people's weaknesses, again, which we all have. And so I think that if a really great leader is going to be able to inspire their people to take part in the team and produce in a way that that even takes them layers up, right? Where they're producing at one level, and then a great leader can help them to produce two or three levels higher. Now, most people work well under encouragement, so a truly great leader is an encouraging visionary. They can communicate their overall vision in a way that gets their team members excited and happy to come to work and contribute again at higher levels than maybe they're even used to. But they also are they have a clarity and vision that the people can lean on and can turn to in the days where it's hard, because it is going to be hard some days. Some days there's going to be challenges. As we say, there's always a fire that we have to solve in the world of projects. That almost every day there's something that comes up, or indeed every day something comes up. And as a great leader, we have to give our team members a stable, steady, sure place to land that they can rely on, so that when you have those tougher moments and those fires that come up, that you can indeed give them the reassurance that they will get through it, that there's always a way to find a solution, and that you're going to get to the other side. And so truly becoming a transformative, high impact leader is also being able to provide a level of reassurance and stability to those on your team, so that they can better lean into their strengths, and everybody can be working together as a cohesive unit in order to produce great things.
I'm going to pick out one particular part of what you said there that I think we don't hear enough, which is someone they can rely on. I think that really is what people are looking for in their leaders, isn't it? Is that consistency, the other things you talked about, but being able to encourage them, champion them, aid their own development as well, but doing all of this in a way that they can rely on, so that they're not second guessing whether just because you said that today, you might change your mind tomorrow. So getting rid of that sort of that mercurial type leader that everyone's probably worked for, sadly, at least once in their career. I know I have.
Yeah.
But I guess it links to safety, doesn't it? Psychological safety, workplace safety, physical, mental, all of these aspects of it.
Well, then you have the team members, though, too. Again, project managers, we see a lot of different personalities that need a firmer hand. So one of the things that any transformative leader and entrepreneur and CEO also has to consider is the different personality types. So some people do incredible with positive reinforcement, with that kind of really the leader that praises a lot, encourages. That's not everybody, though. There's people in the team that really perform at their best with constructive feedback and maybe a firmer hand. They need a bit of a firmer leadership style. So that's, I guess, the challenge of being in a leadership position, is finding a way to communicate to those that really do best with that really positive experience, but realizing that you very likely have people on your team that also need a bit of a firmer approach, and finding a way to balance that again, so that everybody's moving forward in the same direction, but also producing a few levels above maybe what they have in the past. So it's something that every leader is. I guess there's no perfect answer to it, but it's kind of balancing that and figuring out how do I get everyone with all the different personality types on the team producing in the same way.
Yeah, I agree, although depending on what you mean by a firmer hand. But so where I really definitely agree with you, like, it's that bit of treating people as the individuals they are. So knowing that everyone has different strengths and weaknesses and everything you were saying earlier. I think it's about more than personality types though as well. I think like experience level, context, background, all of those things can have an impact on this. But yeah. So what did you mean by firmer hand as well? Let's clarify that.
I have all these sayings, so I'm sure sometimes, anyway, it's, I have a lot of sayings. I tend to come up with them too. But it's just they just need they don't need to be praised. They need honesty is the way that I would put it. Is they need if you go to some folks with too much praise, they're like, yeah, okay, like tell me what I actually need to do. I don't need all this encouragement. I need the truth of the matter. So that's what we mean in that, where some people really with praise, that they just feel good. It makes them feel good. They want to contribute. So that approach works. But there is folks that number one, they don't even like it, and they need a little bit more. I guess straight shooting. Again, I come up with all the sayings. If anybody's going to come up with it, it's going to be me. It's like they need a straighter approach that they feel is coming from a very clear, authentic space in order for them to truly get to the root of the improvement that they have to make.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. No, I see where you're coming from. It's just, yeah. So I think I sort of agree. I mean, I would argue that any approach you take, there's always got to be some authenticity and honesty to it.
Yeah.
And yes, knowing that certain people respond better to praise and others need like the unvarnished truth or however you want to describe it, doesn't mean that you're lying to praise people who haven't earned praise or whatever word you like best.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a balance to be had somewhere in between with most people.
Yeah.
I think, anyway. Now, having said that, there's also never going to be like one size fits all. You can't just treat everyone the same. As unfair as that sounds, it's definitely not unfair.
Yeah. Well, that's the challenge that keeps leaders getting up every day and keeps us trying to think of other ways to connect and grow. And keeps life interesting. So
certainly does that. Yeah. So if we've not already covered it, what would you say has been the most important leadership lesson that you've learned so far in your career?
I think that there is an aspect of effective leaders needing to focus on truly what their goals and again, the corporate vision is, what they're trying to achieve, and let go of trying to control how others think and feel about them. As project manager, one of the things you do get used to is you can kind of become the blame all for things. And if you don't have a good sturdy self-confidence, that could be very much a large burden to carry. So I think that a truly great leader naturally is going to come with criticism. And so it's learning to let go, to accept that that's just a reality of being a leader, and you're going to have that. But you can't control what everybody thinks and feels. So you do have to accept that. I think that if you get into a leadership position and you're really bent on being liked versus focusing on the overall what truly matters, you're going to struggle in that position. So that's it's very important that you learn that while you want to be truthful, you want to be inspirational, you want to be positive and encouraging, you also still cannot please everyone. And you can't dilute your decisions in order to please others. You still have to be very confident in the decisions that you're making, and guided in your values, your purpose, we talked about the long-term vision of what you're doing. And so this is also the reason why it's equally important to surround yourself with a very strong team, just to ensure that that you're surrounded by a foundation that is built to be successful, and also position you to focus on the goal at hand, versus constantly be fighting issues within the larger organization that are not contributing towards the ultimate outcome.
Yeah, I think you're right. That point about being liked as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, because you're right. I mean, humans are all different, aren't we? And of course, it's impossible to ever please anyone any more than it is to make a perfect decision, even once, let alone all the time. But I sort of see this as like the bottom line and the profit and looking after the finances. Like, if you're leading well, if you're a good leader, an effective leader, a supportive leader, those things are going to happen anyway. Like, you will be better liked. You'll be more likable as a result of the way you interact with people. And when you bring that honesty and the authenticity and straight talk and all these other things we've been talking about, just like if you're an effective leader, then the bottom line will also get taken care of, because effective leaders usually produce more productive companies. I don't know. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it.
It's a complex space, and we're all trying to be the best that we can be, but it's through life. Everything is a continual journey of growth and discovery, and we're going to be on it until the end. So has anybody truly figured it all out? I don't think so.
No, sometimes I don't know whether I envy or pity the people who think they have. Because it must be quite a blissful experience at times. But then, yeah, there's something coming they're not expecting probably. So, yeah. Which kind of leads us into another question that I haven't asked this one for a while, because we usually cover it anyway, but I'm not sure we have today. So I'm going to ask it of you. And that is, what is the most common mistake that you think new leaders in particular make, and how can they be avoiding it?
I think it really is about feeling like if they're running into problems or lessons learned, that they must be having a harder time than everyone else. The number one lesson is that there's lessons. That every company, every person has challenges that they're experiencing, and nobody's getting through starting a business or being a leader without them. And everybody is equally experiencing them. Now, the way that they handle them is, of course, another thing. But lessons learned on a project are on every project. Even the most wonderful projects that everyone views as a huge success has a long list of lessons learned along the way. You're just kind of seeing the ultimate outcome. So I think it's very important for anybody that's getting into a leadership position or starting a company or whatever it might be, is when the days get hard or it feels like those lessons are piling up, to feel like, oh, they must be doing something wrong. Well, depending on what it is, but the number one thing is having lessons is completely normal, and it's part of the experience. If you're doing anything of that's going to challenge you, or you're trying to deliver a project of any sort, you're going to have those challenges, and it's totally normal and fine, and everyone else is experiencing them as well. And so you take it as an opportunity to learn and hopefully improve process or whatever it might be related to, and take it as an opportunity for growth. But don't take it to heart, and don't think you're the only one, because everyone is having those experiences as well.
Yeah, it's a good lesson. It's very much easier said than done, I find. But yeah, it's also very human, I think, to when things aren't going very well, you kind of blame yourself, oh, it's all going wrong for me, woe is me, all that sort of thing. But I think that's why this lesson is so important, is, Yeah. Like you said, there are opportunities for learning. We've only got 2 questions left now. And I think they're both quite fun questions, but you may disagree. So the first of them is, if you could go back in time, how far back in your own life would you go, and what would you say to your younger self?
Um, I would go back to grade 7. I know I'm going way back. And I remember that I was feeling particularly lost as a child around that point, and overwhelmed because I really struggled with spelling. I had a really, really hard time with it, and it felt to me at the time as a child, I felt like all the other kids in class were leaps and bounds ahead of me, and to be honest, they very likely were, and I couldn't understand, and I felt like there was something wrong with me, that I was just struggling with it more than others, and it felt like it would never get better. I remember a lovely teacher encouraged me at that time, but I would go back and I would tell that little girl that's from a small town in northern Alberta, Canada, that one day she would publish a book. And trust me, that little girl would not believe it. She would publish a book, she would lead global projects, she would start companies, and she would travel the world. And that those early challenges don't define your overall potential.
I was going to say grade 7 is a very specific number.
It's because I remember a day in grade 7 where I was sitting in the classroom having a conversation with my teacher, and just completely overwhelmed, and just not feeling very great from a self-confidence perspective. And it was a core memory that ended up staying with me. And so I just I wish it could go back and talk to that younger version of myself and encourage her a little bit more.
Do you know what, though? I kind of wonder if the people who do end up going and doing these things and succeeding in these ways are exclusively the ones who had that moment where they were questioning themselves. Because I do feel like that drives you to do all the other things later in life. I don't know. I'm definitely not like a therapist or a psychologist or anything. I'm just guessing based on experience.
The number one differentiator between successful people is grit. It's not necessarily natural inclinations or even intelligence, but grit. Grit is what stands people apart, and the ability to persevere through challenges as they come up.
Yeah, which I guess is hardest to do if there aren't any challenges, right?
That's right.
Fair enough. All right, Lacey, last question. This one's my favourite, though. It's leadership heroes.
Leadership heroes.
So if you had to pick one person, but it could be anyone you could think of, so they could be alive or dead, past or present, real or fictitious, but someone who, in your opinion, perfectly embodies leadership, who is that person going to be for you, and why?
So this one has its English flavor to it. I had to choose a female leader, naturally, and Elizabeth I. I think she was incredibly transformative for her time. There was a lot of unrest that was going on in England, religious and political conflicts that were happening at that time between the Catholics and the Protestants. She also led England to victory during the Spanish Armada, boosting national confidence. She was an incredible leader in a time where women didn't really lead, and she probably received a great deal of criticism. And of course, she ended up making the choice not to marry. It's well known that she did receive a great deal of pressure to produce an heir because they felt like she was being irresponsible. However, she felt like her influence and her capability to lead would be impacted by the production of an heir, and also by marriage. So she chose to stay, quote, the Virgin Queen, and so she was a fascinating character in a time where she must have had everything against her, and then even her beginnings is fascinating. Her dad and the whole story associated with that, and of course, she was very much a visionary, strong leader. However, she was criticized for not making decisions quick enough. Mary, I think Queen of Hearts, was her life came to an end under Elizabeth, and I know that there was an aspect of Elizabeth took a very long time to make that decision, and probably faced a lot of criticism as a part of that from people that may have felt, oh, this female leader, she's not making the hard choices here to protect the realm, and so I think that. I think she's just a really interesting story and very inspiring. And of course, later, another Elizabeth, inspired by her, came along and also was just as equally a very fascinating leader. And so, I would say that she's one of my leadership heroes.
Yeah, interesting period of history, and I think. I don't think she's been chosen before. She's definitely been shortlisted, so you might get bonus points.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that the most impressive thing about her, bearing in mind how far back in history it was and how we can't probably really know the truth of it all, is that resistance to marrying and producing an heir. Because especially at that time, like, it was pretty controversial already that a woman was allowed to lead the whole country, but then to not, in those days, perform her primary function in inverted commas for a royal family would have been, very impressive decision making, I think. And I don't think there's anything wrong with taking your time with decisions either, especially not something of that import, like putting someone to death, one of your rivals for the crown as well. Like,
absolutely. Obviously, that's not even something that we would want to consider. But at the time, I think she would have experienced a lot of opinions in that choice and a lot of pressure on what was, quote, the right decision to do.
Absolutely.
And so, while that is an extreme case, it also does speak to the trials and tribulations that leaders have to face in the choices, and also the pressures associated with them, and how morals and integrity have to come into those choices. Now, I think it rightfully so, looking back on it, that probably wasn't, or for sure wasn't the right decision. However, it would be very interesting to know what she was experiencing at the time and who was in her ear and all of those things. And it kind of takes you to a place where you kind of try to put yourself in the situation and realize how incredibly difficult I think some of these decisions, some of these inspirational leaders had to make. And when it comes to criticisms that they face, that we may not have all of the full story, like you're mentioning, because it was so long ago, as to how they ended up doing some of the things that they did. But ultimately, the fact that she was there and she endured and she did it, she's definitely inspirational.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, time's up, I think. This has been a fun conversation. Lacey, thank you so much for being with us today. I am going to ask you one final extra small question, which is, if anyone would like to learn more about you, your business, the work that it does, where can they go to find out more?
So you can find out about Rubaya on rubaya.com. You can follow along if you subscribe. We are going to be sending out newsletters. We're currently in pre-orders for the clothing, but very, very soon it's going to be opening up for sales. And we have our virtual closet app coming here shortly as well. So please come along with the journey with us. We're ultimately building a community of people, and we love conversation, and so reach out, and we're happy to hear from you.
Lovely. Well, I will make sure those links go in the show notes as well, so everyone will find it easily. They won't have to look too far.
Thank you.
And that's all we've got time for. Thank you again so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Yes, you too.
Lacey, thank you for your time today. Thank you for sharing those insights, stories, lessons learned. Really enjoyed that. And it's always great to explore a slightly different industry. Nice to go down a slightly different path, different tangent on occasion. So thank you again for being with us. Really enjoyed that conversation. And I learned a fair bit as well. which is always nice for me at least. I'm sure the audience did as well. Speaking of the audience, listener, viewer, thank you for being with us today. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. As I said at the beginning, if you would like to learn more about Lacey or Rubia or the work that she does, do check those show notes and you will find the link to her website so you can go and visit that and perhaps experiment with some of that technology. And if you are one of those new leaders, first-time managers working in a technical or specialist environment, and you are struggling right now because stepping into leadership, especially in those tech-driven environments, can be very isolating. It can be high pressure, loads of expectations that you weren't ready for, and you may be full of self-doubt already. If so, the Integrity Leaders community surrounds new leaders like you with shared experiences, with practical guidance, with a trusted network of peers so that you can grow into a confident, capable leader faster and without losing yourself or your identity in the process. So if that sounds like something you'd like to know more about, or you're already sold, you'd like to join immediately, head over to leadingwithintegrity.co.uk. It's on the screen, it's in the show notes. Loads of free resources on that website already. You can explore that a little bit. You can download my Quick Start Leadership Guide. You can take my Leadership Heroes quiz. And when you're ready, you can hit that big green button on the homepage and sign up for the Integrity Leaders community straight away. If at any point you'd rather have a conversation before doing anything else, you'll also find my LinkedIn details down in the show notes. So do connect, reach out, drop me a message. Happy to talk leadership with anyone, anytime. Thank you again so much for being with us. I hope you'll be back next week when I'll be joined by Patrick Bell to talk about leadership and AI, the crossovers there, what a successful AI strategy looks like. We hear about his well-traveled career from Canada to Japan to Kenya and beyond, what that taught him about understanding different business cultures, the differences and similarities in business practices between those continents and countries. And we also talk about integrity, adaptability, the role of AI in business and its impact on leadership, the pitfalls to avoid, and of course, the future of AI, what leaders need to be thinking about. Don't miss that one. I'll be back with Patrick next week. And until then, be a leader, not a boss.